without a display hooked up, really the only things that could happen would be bad things.
Tales of Weird Stuff presents TRS-80 Model 4 and Friends.
At the end of my last Tandy 1000 video, I teased that this computer would be up next on the table, and it's finally, oh God, it's so gross. It's finally here. Now, this video, this recording, is actually a reshoot. I did all of this once before, and for whatever reason, the audio was just totally jacked up. I don't know what the deal is. I have figured out that it is definitely something that OBS Studio was doing in the recording part, because I tried again, and coming out through the monitor, the audio sounded fine. Sounded fine through other things, but just in the recordings, it was... So I kind of changed some random settings in the recordings, and now it's working. It does not instill a lot of confidence in me, so I don't know. Anyway, so this super mega... I thought the Tandy 1000 was dirty, but this thing is just nasty. It is so bad. When I originally got it, I knew there was something... I had some suspicions about it, because the power cable, the case was not closed, and the power cable was actually wrapped around through. I may inset... I am going to splice in some video that I captured from the original one. There just won't be any of that audio, because there's some things that I just can't recreate. So I had some suspicions that there's something wrong with this. It feels light. It, cosmetically looks pretty okay. Now this is there are multiple versions of the Model 4, and this is kind of the lowest end version. It's the 16K of RAM with no disk drives. And that's why I'm going to do, by which I mean I have already started and there's more to be done, some repairs on this, but I'm not intending to keep it because I really want the disk drives. I have a really nice, cosmetically nice Model 3 that has the original box and a bunch of other stuff with it. The Model 4 is a better computer in just about every way if it has the disk drives. So I may eventually someday get a Model 4 as a keeper, but this one is not going to be it. So I just want to get it, fully working, and then rehome it somehow. The case is in good shape, aside from filth and the screws are missing. When I first when I got this at the same estate sale where I got the Tandy 1000, and I got a bunch of other stuff there, including some other things that are going to show up later in this video. And I just kind of, peeked inside of it a little bit, but didn't fully open it up and didn't look at it. So when I was making this video, when I first looked inside of it, which I think I can go ahead and just open it up now, and I'll probably try to splice in some of that video. When I first opened it, I got it about this far, and you can see there's no motherboard down there. I thought, well, okay, this is going to be a short video because there's no computer in the computer. And I had a good laugh about that, but it turns out with the Model 4 that the computer is actually in the back. I'm not sure if the Model 3 is the same way or not. I'm going to very carefully set that down. It's hard to line back up. I'm not sure if the Model 3 is the same way, but the Model 4, and when I saw that and realized that, I knew that somewhere back in my brain, I did know that, so I felt very silly. But let's go ahead and take a look inside. I'm going to have to rearrange a little bit. We'll take a look inside and see what is going on with this machine. Now, the first question that is very reasonable to have is, well, if Model 4 doesn't have disk drives, can you just add them? Theoretically, Yes. There's two major problems with that, though. At least two major problems, perhaps three. And hopefully you can't hear that background. It's laundry day, so you may be able to hear my laundry machine in the background. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Yep. Several problems with adding disk drives to this. One, I don't think that it has the floppy controller chip on the motherboard. That's relatively easy to add. I think I have a couple spares of those. Two, the case, those plastic front plates that are in the case are actually like molded into the case, so removing those is destructive. And three, note the absence of any hardware or anything here to mount the floppy drives in. In a Model 4 that has floppy drives, and you can maybe see there's these little rivets here in the bottom, there's several of them, where a floppy cage should be to mount the drives in. So without all that stuff, yes, it is theoretically possible. No, it is probably not worth the effort. It is certainly not worth the effort to me. Now, on all Tandy Model 3s and Model 4s, there's so that's actually the other problem that I just realized. So on all the Tandy Model 3s and Model 4s, you have a giant exposed, just hanging out here, danger high voltage power supply. On the systems that have a floppy drive, you can see there's a second connector here. Now this is, don't worry, this is not plugged in. This is not plugged in. This is mains voltage right here. A second power supply would be connected right here that just runs the floppy drives. So in the Model 3 that I have, there's going to be two of these power supplies mounted somewhere. So I would, yeah, it's just, for me, it's a prohibitive amount of work to do. Now, the other thing that I guess I could do, is just maybe transplant the motherboard out of the Model 4 into the Model 3. Oh, I hadn't thought about that before. That's interesting. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about that idea. Should I make it into a stealth Model 4? Because Model 4, there's a lot of cool add-ons possible for the Model 4. It can have a lot more RAM. I think up to 128K of RAM. So you can run some other operating system. Anyway, now the first thing about the power supply is, well, there's a couple things. One, giant capacitors that might leak. And I had examined this one and they look good, but there is a REFA capacitor, which my finger's in the way. There's a REFA capacitor here. This is a brand new one. I've already replaced it, and so you can kind of see when, compared to when this video is going to come out, when I was working on this and recording the video that had the messed up audio, because I tweeted a picture of the original REFA cap, which I think I've thrown away by now, with some sort of clever text like, "You can't hurt me anymore," or something like this. So it was a while ago. Now in the other video, I did after replacing that capacitor, there's still a lot that can go wrong on these power supplies. So especially on computers of this vintage with potentially really janky power supplies, it is a good idea to disconnect it from anything that it might destroy and just turn it on and make sure that you didn't miss a REFA that's going to explode, or a tantalum capacitor or anything like that that's going to have any fireworks. And when I did that initial literal smoke test, I was kind of scared. And I remember I was like, all right, I'm going to turn it on. I was kind of hiding behind the giant metal shield here with it disconnected. Test it disconnected, and then on this one, it's really nice. So the power connectors that go, my arm's in the way, the power connectors that go to the computer right here are easily disconnected, and on the board here, it's labeled what each pin should be. So for sure go through, check the voltages, make sure that they look, at least reasonably close. I did that on this board, and all the voltages were fine. I was very happy about that. So then I wanted to, and this part I will, instead of telling you about what I had done previously, I'm just going to do it again. I did open this up, so I'm gonna switch the cameras around, and we'll take a look inside and take a look at the ridiculous motherboard that's in here. I still I can't believe that this is real life. So one thing I want to point out now that I've got this partially disassembled here is there is a June 29, I don't know how well it comes through, June 29, 1983 date code. I can't really take this out very much more than this because the connection to the cassette port and to the power connector here are kind of hardwired in, and they are I don't want to disconnect them. They will be a huge hassle. So it's gonna stay kind of connected, partially connected like this. And it looks like I missed a couple of screws. I tried to get most of the screws out. It's gonna stay partially connected like this while we take a peek at the inside of what I feel like is one of the sketchiest motherboards I may have ever seen. So check this action out. And I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. I've never seen so many, not just the quantity of bodge wires on this thing, but the quality. And I'm looking at it. I don't think these are all factory, and I don't know what their purpose is. So I've got a couple things in here that lead me to believe that Han Solo made a bunch of his own modifications to this thing. One, there is a ROM chip with a different kind of label on it, so I'm guessing that this may be some sort of later upgrade ROM. I'm not sure. It still appears to only have the original 16K of RAM, and I feel like if you're gonna do any upgrades to this thing, like, dude, start there. What else is so the bodge wires? There's at least 3 different sets of bodge wires here. There's this really heavy gauge yellow ones that there's 3 of, and these, because of where they're attached and the way that they're attached, I feel like those are probably factory. There's also this black one here. I think that also is factory because, like, on a couple of these, they go to specific points that are marked on the motherboard, and bodge wire here. I'm a little surprised at like how sort of crummy the routing is on them. I would have expected better quality of work on the board than that if it came from the factory. Okay, but then there's these kind of white silver ones and these kind of metallic blue ones that are, I didn't even notice that before, that are totally sketch the way that these are installed. So a couple of these over here and over here, and we'll see if I can zoom in on those in a second, are like pins on these chips. These are both 74 series, all 3 of these are 74 series logic chips. Pins on those chips were clipped from the motherboard and bent up and had these bodges soldered to them to run all over the place. I have a Model 1 that has a bunch of ridiculous bodges on it also, and those are specifically for a lowercase character set mod that you needed to rerun some things because it didn't have the missing a bit in video memory. So you had to install a RAM chip, do some routing of wires to get that extra bit of video memory. By the time the Model 4 came around, it's my understanding that lowercase was standard operating procedure. So I don't know what the heck those, I don't know what all this nonsense is for. Like, why? You know, I'm gonna zoom in on that. So this is that mod in here, and that is, it just looks so sketchy to me. Does anyone have any idea? I have not done very much research about Model 4 modifications and hacks that people did, but is this normal? Or is this something weird? Is this something that when I go to turn this on, which I actually will turn it on here in a second just to make sure, because I see some tantalums on it. Well, we have to make sure that those are okay. There's some other connectors on this. I don't know what these are for. So there's this, and then is there a board on the other side? No, it's just the back side on there. And the back side, I see cobwebs and a dead spider. Because this computer is so clean. And I see one more of these kind of silver bodge wires on the back. But that's it. I don't see anything else on the back. Just that one. Okay. While I've got this here, I can zoom this out and so we can get a better look at these ROM chips. Like I said before, I'm assuming that this is some sort of an upgrade ROM just because it looks different than the other two. But I have no idea what it would be for. And I'm assuming that this is the floppy connector. And I don't immediately see on here, and it doesn't help that I'm looking at this upside down, a chip that would be the floppy controller. But then I also don't see a socket where a missing chip would go. So presumably one of these, which I'm realizing now I have this upside down. One of those is the so here it is right side up. Sorry about that. So presumably one of these is the floppy controller chip, but the numbers on them aren't numbers that I immediately recognize as floppy controller chips. They're Tandy specific chips from kind of mid 1982. Ooh, and this one has got a lot of corrosion on those pins on the side there. That may need to be replaced. Hopefully that is something that has a standard replacement part. And it looks like, that's interesting, that socket, you can see the silk screening on the motherboard and the extra holes for pins, that maybe there's another design that wants a different kind of socket and a different sort of chip in there. We'll plug this in. Let me zoom back out and let's see if anything happens when it gets. Ooh, that was an unpleasant sound. When it gets turned on. Now, kind of the spoiler is I did already do this before, and when I did this before, I was very scared, and I hid behind the shield here in case one of the tantalums exploded, and I didn't want to, you'll shoot your eye out kind of a thing. So I will continue to be overly dramatic just for effect. And we'll go ahead and turn this on. Nothing happens. Okay, good. I mean, that's without a display hooked up. Really, the only things that could happen would be bad things. All right, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to re-put it back together and hook it up. I'm going to hook up the display, and we'll see what happens with the display on it. I mean, the only thing left to do now is to turn it on with the monitor attached. Now, I've noticed, and I had not noticed this before, that one of the and you can kind of see it wobble a little bit here, that one of the standoffs that attaches the monitor into the physical case here is broken. It's completely completely snapped off. That should be a relatively easy fix with just some epoxy. I'm gonna just turn it on. Instantly hear high voltage come on and hear it sync, so that's all a good sign. And then it comes on, but it's not quite right. So I can tell though that it's trying to say CAS to like load something from cassette, which is the normal startup thing. And then if I hit enter again, it's asking about memory size. But what it looks like, because of where the cursor is, so the cursor should be up here, that there's something wrong with the syncing. So I don't know. My understanding of this means that the tube is fine, and that probably the analog board is maybe fine. I guess it could be mishandling the sync signals. So on this bundle of wires connector that comes through, I did check this. There's a separate video. One wire carries video, one wire carries H sync, and one wire carries B sync. So if something's not being generated correctly, or if something's not being processed correctly, that could cause this. But I think the hardest to replace part being the tube and maybe the flyback transformer. Those seem okay. So I can even accept the memory size, and I can do the standard, completely blind typing here. I think I typed that correctly. Hopefully I did that right. Yeah, so it's, I can do the, hello world ad infinitum and hit break and it works. So the keyboard seems to be working fine. The computer itself seems fine. There's just... So the other thing that I had looked up that I may yet try is there are some circuits available, and there's some kits you can buy and things like that to basically connect this cable, and they will convert it to a monochrome composite output. And then you can drive any kind of monitor or TV from it. I think I may try that. I looked at a couple of those schematics, and I don't have the parts on hand to be able to actually build that up right now. There's, in one of them, there's, 4 or 5 different chips and a handful of passives. So I may try to build one of those, and that will kind of narrow down, is the problem at the sender or is the problem at the receiver? I'm kind of thinking that it's probably at the receiver end, that maybe there's just, maybe it's something as simple as there's just a bad transistor, but I do not know anything about any of this analog stuff, and the people that I do know who know about this kind of thing are real busy and have, a huge line of projects, and probably don't have availability in their schedule to help me very much, other than say, oh yeah, that looks like a bummer, dude. So that's going to wrap it up for this. I do have another part, another item that I got along with this that I want to talk about. So I'm going to clear all this stuff away. I'm going to pack this up and put it away for now. But this is definitely a tale to be continued. I would like to get this fully working and either do the stealth Model 4 thing, or just rehome this. I haven't decided. Anyway, let's wrap this up and move on to the next part of the video. Even though I got the Model 4 and this device, which you can already see from the from the outside of the box here what it is, I got them both at the same time at the same estate sale. Their condition couldn't be more different. Now the box here is a little bit jacked up, and there was all of the tape was originally here and was dangling off, and it has gradually fallen off as I've moved it around my house a couple of times. It had been probably in this attic space where it had been for 30 years. Who knows? When I saw it, I was like, oh, hey, a plotter. but I kind of peeked inside the box. I said, oh, yay, a plotter. I'm going to go ahead and dig this thing out. Now, as far as I can tell from looking at it, this thing is so heavy. It is heavier than the Model 4 is. It is so heavy. As far as I can tell from looking at this, I don't think this thing has ever been used. It still has the manual, which is in just gorgeous, pristine condition. And the first thing I noticed about the manual is, when I flip through it, is it has basic programs in it for both the original TRS-80 Model series and for the Coco series, has basic programs of how to drive the plotter. So that's pretty cool. There's some little basic programs in here to draw some sine waves and stuff. I don't think, I haven't looked too much in the box. I don't think there are cables in here, so I don't have the right cables to hook this up to a TRS-80, either regular original series or Coco series. Because they take the parallel ports on those, or the edge connector, kind of like on the Tandy 1000s. They all use the same edge connector kind of parallel port. So it still has the fuse, and the fuse is still taped in. It has the pens. You can tell where the tape had been on the pens, but it's deteriorated away. I wonder. I don't think there's any way that these pens work, but I'll have to... Anyway. So I don't have the right cables to hook it up. I did look through the manual a little bit, and I believe that there is a self-test mode, and I think that it also... I could just hook it up to a regular PC using a normal PC parallel port and drive it using that. I don't know that I have a PC with a parallel port put together in enough condition to be able to do that with right now. I don't know. We'll see if it comes to that. I think it has a built-in self-test thing, and I think that will be adequate to test. I'm not sure what that is for. Hopefully the manual will tell me. Move these to one side. Now this is super heavy. just from the box, I can tell it's super. Oh my gosh. The other thing that I didn't point out, so all over the outside of the box, in at least 5 different places, and a couple places inside the box, there are these price stickers from Half Price Books for $199.99. So someone bought it and then presumably never used it and then sold it to... I don't know. I'm curious what its backstory is. There's another fill-in spot there. That's interesting. I wonder why they did that like that. Looking at this thing, and I think I might go adjust my camera settings so it seems a little dark. This thing looks gorgeous. Like there is not even any fingerprint smudges on any of this plastic, other than maybe some that I just got on there. It looks just absolutely pristine. The power supply cable is still... I slide that out there without ripping that. Now, when I plug this in, and I am for sure going to plug this in, I'm going to just get an extension cord because I'm not going to untangle that because I will never get it back the way that it originally was, and that is too cool. All right, so what do we got going on here? So on the back, it has power supply, power switch, a fuse. Is the fuse in it? Was that an extra fuse? Yes, that is. So it came with an extra fuse, which is interesting. Usually a thing I wouldn't expect a thing to come with an extra fuse unless the manufacturer felt like blowing a fuse was a high probability item. So it has a serial I/O, which I believe is for the Coco. Dip switches, which probably set the serial I/O address, I would guess. I'm not 100% sure how serial I/O works on the Coco. Centronics, parallel port, caution, hot surface, avoid contact. So this top part here is plastic, but this bottom is all metal, and this is, I don't know how well it comes through. Yeah, all right. This is a giant heat sink. Oh my gosh. So that, presumably that heat sink is up against either the power supply or the stepper motor. I'm not sure. Serial number 1430. So if they did their serial numbers sequentially, serially, that is, I feel like, a low number. Power. Okay. So the thing with the, 12-pound brick of a heatsink on it says it pulls up to 90 watts. Holy smokes. Okay. So I don't know if I can afford the electric bill for doing a lot of plotting. That is ridiculous. Okay. So let's get it turned around here. Those little bits of like styrofoam dust. Okay, well, I think I'm going to need some paper. I will adjust my camera settings because this looks super dark. Although I wonder, might adjust them just a very little bit. And I will get, because I don't think I have one around here, I will get an extension cord so that I can plug this in properly. And let's just go for broke. So the Model 4 had reefa caps in it. I don't think this will. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would, but maybe I will look up a service manual for this because I'm sure that there is one, and I'll take a quick peek at the schematic. Make sure I'm not going to stink up my house. All right, I'm going to adjust some things and be right back. I checked the service manual. There are no reefas in this, so I'm safe there. I've already plugged it in, and there was no explosions. I also I went and got some paper, and I got a piece of scrap paper, and I tried out one of the pens. I don't know if it'll show up on there, but it works. The pens work. They're not like felt markers. I don't know what this kind of pen tip technology is called, but after all these, there's like some corrosion crust on the metal up here, which I know is not going to come through on any of the cameras. But other than that, the pen, I'm flabbergasted. I cannot believe that it works. So I'm going to load this up with paper. I looked in the operations manual to see the correct way to load this thing up. I'm going to put a piece of paper in it. It does have a built-in self-test mode. Where was that page? Because we'll need to double check that and make sure I do it correctly, because there's kind of an elaborate sequence of things to do to get it to. So supposedly it will plot this. We'll see how that goes. We'll set this off to the side here. Okay, so what it said was, take a sheet of paper, and it admonishes you. All right, I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit. Okay, something works in it. So it admonishes you, don't touch the paper because the oils from your skin can mess with the pens and blah, 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 blah. So it says to take this, put that in there, and line that up with that line. And clip that down, and then it says to use this, which I'm not, is in a little bit of plastic packaging that I'm not going to remove it from. I think it'll still work. Smooth out. This is the paperweight. Is what this little metal piece is called. And then it says, so in this little clip here, you have to manually load the pens. And there's a part where the pen kind of flares out, and there's a little notch partway through this clip. It says to insert that very carefully in there. Okay, I think that's good. And then it says to hold down all 4 of the direction-y movie buttons. That is the technical name. Hold down all 4 of those, and then push the online offline button, and it should do a thing. It's doing a thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, good. It shows up on this camera. I was afraid that the exposure wasn't going to be right. Radio Shack flatbed plotter. It works perfectly. Like, the pen works perfectly. Okay. Pen works 95% perfectly. Holy smokes. I can't. I'm just beside myself. I don't even know what to say. I cannot believe this. How often is it that a person, that anyone, opens a piece of likely new old stock or practically new old stock, 35-year-old technology, plug it in, and it just works after all this time? No exploding refas, no pens out of ink, no. I mean, this is, wow, it's really loud. So the one thing that I didn't check that I should have checked is that there's no belts or anything in here, because those could have. I should have checked that. That was a mistake. It was a mistake, and I was not punished for the mistake. I'm gonna let this finish plotting, and then I think that was a cute little dance at the end. Well, I'm super impressed. That is fabulous. I can't believe it just works. Wow. And then you can put it back online, and then presumably you could plot from your computer. Wow. Okay. I think the next step is we need to take a look inside. I did also check the service manual, because I kind of saw that one way or another looking inside was going to be in my future. It's pretty involved to really get inside, so I'm just going to do enough to get at where the circuit board is, because I would like to make sure that there's no leaking electrolytic capacitors from the schematic. There are some electrolytics on there. I would like to check it out and just make sure that everything's cool, but it seems it seems awesome. This is so cool. Okay. I can't stop smiling. All right, let's just get into this disassembly here. Now, there are a very small number of screws that actually have to come out of this. There are 2 inside here, these 2, and then there's 3 on the back. And as far as I can tell, that is all actually has to come out in order to get the top part off and to get it opened up enough to get at the circuit board inside. So I'm gonna do these. I often forget to put down a towel, but for this, because it is in such pristine condition, I have put down a towel because I do not want to scuff that top. It is it's in such good shape. Those came out really, really easily. Okay, so it's these three, and I think for this part, I can flip this back up. Okay, and then this should, my memory of the service manual is correct. You should pop it off from the front first, or from the, I think maybe from the back. Okay, so that comes up, and then that comes out. Alright, so I'm going to rotate this around, because I think what I'm going to do, because I don't necessarily want to disconnect, there's a little ribbon cable connector that I don't think I want to disconnect for this. So I'm going to just very carefully stay. And then it says this part should just lift up. And oh, that's classy. It has a little kickstand. That is super classy. Wow. And that circuit board looks absolutely fabulous. So there's a okay, so this is a big chunk of metal. So here's the two stepper motors, which are not particularly near the brick of a heat sink. It looks like the heat sink is mostly attached to this row of what, 9 power transistors. I mean, 90 watts. Okay, so this is driven by, it looks like there's a couple Toshiba 4066. I believe those are SRAM chips, a couple of ROM chips. Yeah, 8039 processor, which I believe is integrated microcontroller that has serial port kind of stuff in it. A couple buffer chips. So real simple configuration. The real magic in it is these giant motors, and they do have cables, but they are steel cables, so they're not likely to. Man, when those steel cables go bad, everything is lost. Wow, yeah, it looks gorgeous. There are 4 electrolytic capacitors in here, and they look brand new. Like everything about this board, it is so clean. There is not a speck of dust on that board. Wow. Which I mean, I guess if it's been sitting essentially in the box for the better part of 35 years or whatever, or maybe longer, it stands to reason that there would be no dust in it. Okay, well, I'm going to consider this a great success. I'm beside myself at how well this has worked out. If you've enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate a like. If you would like to see more of what I have coming up, I highly recommend that you subscribe. We're now a week-ish into October. I am going to try to do Unixtober again this year. It is not going to be all Spark stuff. I'm hoping to get 3 videos out, Unix-related videos out, and at least 2 of them will not be Spark. So there will be some other stuff. One of the things that I teased way back in my teaser trailer that I did in, at the beginning of January or whatever, whenever that was, a million years ago, it feels like now. Yeah, so if you're interested in that content, it is coming. I'm going to try to get it out. Next weekend is Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and this shirt is 10 years old. Now this is the 2013 shirt, which was the first year that I went. So this will be my my 9th expo, because there was 2 that didn't happen in there because reasons. Yeah, and I'll until next time, try to remember the good stuff.